There we go. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and otherwise. I'm Lamar Haven. Welcome back to Remember 11, Age of Infinity, and to our voting for the Stropo. Let me get that link real fast because I always forget to have it ready. It is in the title of today's video, but it is now also in chat. Vote for what I play next on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, because yesterday I finished Illusion of Gaia. But today, stop that game, we're going on with the Age of Infinity. And the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to continue from a shortcut rather than our save point. Dog. Anyway. This doesn't seem right. Uh-oh. I think I'll have to use a regular save point. Anyway. Ah, good. Okay. So, I was told I should do something special with this scene. And apparently, I did the right thing with one of my save points. So what we're going to do with this scene, we're going to drink the water offered us by Utsumi, who is clearly getting ready to kill Inubushi Keiko, who is currently Hattori. So, what happens when we drink it? Drink it all in one gulp. I return the empty glass to the tabletop. She watched me with the upturned eyes as I drank. Her face was veiled in shadow, so I couldn't see into her eyes. She raised the glass to her lips, yet made no move to drink from it. She stood there, frozen. Beyond the darkness that separated us, I could barely hear the faint sound of her breathing. Standing there wordlessly in the dark, she resembled nothing so much as a wraith that had wandered free of its earthly body. I couldn't feel the slightest bit of warmth from her. But what's wrong? I held my breath as I asked her. She moved the glass away from her lips. Without saying a word, she turned her hand and tipped it. The liquid inside made a splashing sound as it hit the floor, filling me with icy dread. It can't be! Propelled into action by sudden anxiety, I frantically patted my own body, in order to see if anything was wrong. How pitiful, she suddenly spoke, as she looked down, watching my floundering immobile. The power of this human is so pitiful. What are you trying to say? In the end, you couldn't do a thing, could you? Panic rang out in my head like an alarm bell. The tips of my fingers began to tap out an unconscious rhythm on the table. Convulsions. I clenched my hands together to stop the spasms. I won't let anyone interfere with my plan. No one can stop me. I told you before, right? I don't remember hearing anything like that. But now wasn't the time to question her. I needed to throw up that water now. She doesn't say that until later, and she doesn't directly say that to us. She says that to someone else. She says it to Kokoro. I sprang out of my chair, or at least I wanted to, but my body had adhered to the floor. My extremities were completely numb and were out of control. It wasn't just my fingertips either. My lips, tongues, even my eyelids wouldn't move. My head was heavy like a stone clod had been driven into it. I had a sudden sense that I had experienced this feeling before, or I couldn't recall when and where anymore. Don't worry. I'm not planning to kill you. Her voice sounded far away. Little by little, I drifted even further. Trying to grab hold of that voice, I reached out with all my might. Goodbye, Yukido-kun. My consciousness was weakening, fading, and before long I couldn't see anything. I floated to the bottom of the quagmire where no light could ever reach, my consciousness completely swallowed. That afternoon, I found the corpse of the slaughtered Hattori. Her ribs had been torn right out of her flesh and her heart neatly gouged out. Behind her lay the corpse of Utsumi. She'd slit her wrist, taking her own life. In the palms of her hand, she grasped a heart, so crushed that all semblance of the original form had been lost. It was Hattori's heart. With one finger of her other hand, she'd written something on the floor in blood. Just a single line. Where is self? Uni sat in the sea of blood, muttering to himself like a madman. I have no idea what happened after that. I think several more transfers occurred, but that didn't matter anymore. The mercy of something greater than I, my lost soul just wandered aimlessly through an empty world. What happened to the 4 people at the shelter cabin after that? The newspaper dated July 4th, 2011. Headline 3 decomposed male and female corpses found at Makakura had disappeared. Instead, it said that their bodies were discovered on January 17th, along with those of the other passengers. What? So they didn't come back alive. That means the 3 of them died on January 11th. What? I wonder if I've just been dreaming this whole time. A nightmare without end. Now I'm in a white room. Pure white room without a single stain on its walls. In one wall, there's a small window with bars across it. Outside, I can see cherry blossoms as they flutter down and dance in the wind. An old man is walking down the road. Slowly, slowly, he totters by. From the other direction comes a boy walking a dog. He shouts cheerfully as he runs, bathed in the sunlight filtering through the trees. I don't want to think anymore. Just gazing through the window at the world enclosed by the little square is enough for me. The cherry blossoms, the old man, the boy, and the dog. God damn it. Sorry, hold on. Never a bloody moments of peace in this damn neighborhood. Surrender myself the passage of time, content to be a spectator. Without emotions nor self, with only one single viewpoint, observing the transient world. Viewpoint. A point. Neither volume nor mass. I was a hollow existence. Suddenly I heard a voice from the other side of the door. Enomoto-san. Enomoto Neo-san. Time for your medicine. I'm sorry, what? I'm writing that name down and knocking everything else off in the process. I'm sorry. There's Enomoto. Naoya. Is that Satoru's actual name? The hell? Story is not finished yet, truth is not revealed, and it circulates through an incident. It is an infinity loop. The fuck? Yeah, we're saving that. That's a new name. Yeah. And somehow, when those events happened, it, like, altered the past. So that the avalanche never happened? But they were killed in the crash instead? So weird. That was so weird! Wow, that was strange as all hell, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it. But that means Inubushi Keiko / Hattori is extremely important to these events. Whatever's supposed to happen, her and Utsumi being alive is super important. Okay. Well, we're moving on. Before I noticed that a transfer had occurred. My body had changed, but my heart hadn't. I felt as depressed as ever, as though I were gasping for breath at the bottom of a quagmire. Because we're not seeing Satoru's side of the timeline, but a different timeline? Maybe! Was he Satoru before he lost his memories? That's a question that was just raised. The answer might be no. The reason why we think he's Satoru is because he had the ID card. That's what Utsumi used, I think. She assumed he was a person who worked at Sphia because of that. Because he had an employee card. And I don't think we ever got confirmation when we finally found Satoru in Kokoro's route from Mayuzumi that was actually Satoru, that she actually recognized him. I don't know if she did. I don't remember. It wasn't a photo ID, and I don't know if we ever got confirmation that was him. In fact, Mayuzumi might have been confused, if I remember the scene right. It could have easily been interpreted as confusion when she reacted to Kokoro saying Satoru. Was he in the picture? He was never in the picture when they showed Mayuzumi with Satoru, back when she was in a relationship with him, did they? So Satoru isn't Satoru. He's apparently this Enomato guy? Enomato Naoa? Okay, but that's a name we've never heard before. So is that significant importance right now? I mean, for Satoru / Enomato, I suppose so. But not for us necessarily. Not yet. I couldn't stop thinking about Utsumi, and Junichi, and the baby, and Yomogi. Very same Yomogi was here now in the corner of the room. Sitting atop a bundle of firewood, he was staring intently at the palms of his hands. An axe was leaning against the wall beside him. At that point, I realized what was happening. The room looked different from last night. Hey! No ghosts of furniture past! The table was gone, so were the chairs. The floor was covered in fine splinters. Which means they chopped it all up for firewood? They'd run out of fuel? The atmosphere in the room was grave. So dark and tangible you could almost cut it with a knife. Nobody dared to open their mouth. Lynn was sitting beside her bed, her arms folded. She stared at the floorboards, furred by splitters, with a blank look in her eyes. Uni stood in the window looking outside. Present time, 3:57 p.m. Beyond the window, everything was dyed a deep red. The setting sun cast a gloomy light over the room. Mingling with the aura of unrest, the light took on a bewitching color. As time passed, the shadows deepened. The night gradually crept on us. I could almost hear its footsteps. The beating of my own heart was disturbingly loud. No time. I have no time. I could only be at the shelter cabin for 33 minutes. I took a look at Kokoro's wristwatch and saw the moment drawing near by the second. Brought on by that feeling of urgency, my mind finally cleared. It's useless to keep thinking about Utsumi. Right now, I needed to worry about the shelter cabin. Or about the transference phenomenon. That's right, there's still something I need to talk to Uni about. Questions I kept missing up my chance to ask. The important question I've been putting off. I drew closer to where he stood, grabbed him by the shoulders, and spun him around to face me. Uni! Oh, what's wrong all of a sudden? There's something I want to ask you. Please answer me. What? Uni was visibly upset. Overwhelmed by the forcefulness of my actions, he faltered. You... Biting off my words, I stopped and stole a glance at Yomogi and Lin, but I didn't care anymore. I didn't care if they heard me. That no longer mattered. I was running out of time. Without hesitation, I spoke. Are you the Uni from 2012? What do you... Quit playing dumb. You came to this world from 1 year in the future. And in your place, the Uni who should be in the world ended up in the sphere of 2012. Isn't that right? You should know everything. I don't. I have no idea about that. Don't you lie to me. Tell me what happened. Why did you return the Mount Akakura of 2011? Why? What the hell are you planning? I frantically shook him, pressing him for a reply. Well, we finally get more forceful about getting information from Uni. Guess what? It's gonna backfire hard. And all of a sudden... Ah! Uni screamed as though he'd gone mad. Twisting out of my grip, he broke into a run. He threw open the door of the cabin with all his might. Wait, Uni, where are you going? Deaf to my attempts to stop him, he dove in the snowfield. I ran out after him. I plunged into the fallen snow. Sunset had dyed its surface a deep crimson. Striding across it, really, Haven? Striding across it, I ran, kicking up snow as I went. But in spite of my efforts, it didn't look like I stood the slightest chance of catching up to him. Uni was getting away from me, springing across the frozen surface with the agility of a snow rabbit. Meanwhile, I could only trudge to walk awkwardly through it. Of course, this is another person's body, a woman's body. Uni! Uni! I shouted toward his back, which grew even smaller in the distance. Without turning around, he barreled up the gentle slope of the hill. Super short transfer! And that's when she gets the creepy stare from him. Uni disappeared from sight. And not just Uni. The snowfield, the gentle slope of the hill, and the vast sky had all vanished too. The only thing that remained the same was the bewitching matter red surrounding me. Only that and nothing more. Present time, 4:30 p.m. Damn it! Once again, I'd failed to get the truth out of Uni. Was that? Really? 30 minutes already? 33 minutes already, I should say? Refusing to dwell on it, I quickly left the room. When in Sphia, I had no choice but to focus on matters in Sphia. Hattori's room. When I opened the door, I found her and Uni lying down on the bed. What's wrong? I felt slightly relieved at the sight of her safe. Uni was keeping his promise and kept an eye on her. No, it's nothing. Without saying another word, I left the room. Next, at Sumi's. The door was unlocked, but I couldn't see her anywhere inside the room. I heard sounds coming from the bathroom indicating she was taking a shower, though. I closed the door, trying not to make a sound, and returned to the living area. I let my body sink into the sofa. Clasping both hands by my head, I heaved a sigh. All my nerves were on edge, and I couldn't calm down. I couldn't possibly calm down. Sumi's out to kill Hattori. Someone's out to kill me. The shelter cabin's run out of fuel. Uni's behavior there is as baffling as it gets. How the heck did it come to this? How many times have I recited those very same words by now? Thinking on it? Thinking back, it was on January 11th. It all began after I went up to the clock tower. Why I did that, I still don't know. I'm not even sure how I got up there in the first place. The entrance leading to the roof of the clock tower. I didn't know where it was. I don't know why, but there must be a way up from there. I decided to search Sphia. There could still be a place I've overlooked hidden away somewhere. As I had that thought, I decided to head to the storeroom first. I went down the stairs and reached the storeroom. Found some crates piled up unnaturally in the corner. I moved them out of the way. The door came into view. I found it so quickly it was almost a little anticlimactic. Just like when I opened the front gate. Had I by any chance known about the store from the start? I had that feeling. There was a card reader terminal on the wall beside the door. This is from the intro scene. From the very, 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 very first scene. The Sphia front gate opened with the ID card. So maybe this door too. I pulled the card out of my pocket and inserted it in the reader. Door opened. I pushed it open and stepped into darkness as if drawn in. A new room. On the other side of the door, an empty room spread out in dim light. Where am I? Squinting, I took a look around. It was a small room. I walked around, ascertaining its layout. There's an iron door on the left side of the room. Another room deeper underground. I decided to leave that door for later and continue with my examination. Next to the door is an enormous machine resembling a supercomputer. It's a computer with superpowers. A computer capable of processing very large amounts of data at ultra-high speeds through the employment of technology such as parallelism. Processing speed can be as high as 10 to the 12th operations per second as of 2003. In recent years, supercomputers have become used for weather forecasting across Japan, calculating things like temperature, pressure, and even the movement of clouds. It was currently operational. I could hear the dull sound of fans echoing through the room. On the other side was a single chair enshrined by a bank of control panels. Above the panels was an array of monitor screens. Images reflected in each monitor barely illuminated the gray room. Upon further inspection, they appeared to be showing areas of Sphia. Every private room, the living area, the kitchen, the basement storeroom, the front entrance, the gate, the basketball court. This could be a surveillance room. I never noticed them, but it looked like Sphia had hidden cameras positioned everywhere. It's obvious if you think about it. The facility is the specified psychiatric hospital for isolation in Aegis. Of course there would be equipment for keeping the inmates under surveillance. Nevertheless, what happened to the guard that was supposed to be stationed here, or any of the staff for that matter? The question that had nagged me earlier reared its head once more. There was another room back there. Where did it lead? Going by the layout of the upper floor, it should be a private room, but I slowly walked over to the door. Something made me glance back at the control panel. I noticed a folded sheet of paper there. I picked it up and spread it out flat. It was a map of Japan. On one part of the map, the Hokkaido and Tohoku region had faded for some reason. What? Faded for some reason. Put it back where I found it. Inside it was a cup of coffee. White steam rose from it. Uh-oh. White steam? Eh? Felt a chill run down my spine. The fact that it's still hot means it was freshly poured. And that, in turn, means that there's someone else here. Preparing for their arrival, I braced myself. Who is it? Where are they hiding? At the moment I thought that, the lights in the ceiling came on. The gray room was flooded with light. Welcome. An unfamiliar male voice. I turned around and jumped back as though repelled. Okay! Who's the suit? Well, I mean, we know he gets murdered soon. But I mean, why? Who? What? I guess we're gonna have a pleasant conversation with the guy. Yay! And I wear my sunglasses at night. There stood a man. I've been waiting for you. I was just thinking it was about time for you to show up. Waiting? For me? Who the hell is this guy? I didn't recognize him at all. Oh, it's Mr. Corpse! No, it's strange. Something isn't right. What is it, this feeling? I don't know this man, I've never met him. And yet within my memory store in my hippocampus, fragments of something almost forgotten resurface and submerge again and again. The hippocampus! The part of your brain that stores the hippo that controls everything you do. Now, you see, the hippocampus is a part of the cerebral cortex. The hippocampus controls functions of desire, instinct, the autonomic nerves, and so on. Due to its responsibility for deciding the levels of urgency and of received information and storing memory of other parts of the brain, it is referred to as the memory factory. It is said that without the hippocampus, a person wouldn't be able to remember what had happened even 5 minutes ago. Additionally, it's not simply the case that one becomes forgetful with age. Adults, because of having much greater store of memories than children, are said to take much longer to remember a single essential piece of information. Actually, the brain becomes more efficient at certain tasks as it gets older because it's had more experience to make the proper connections and it's made more connections. So technically your memory should be getting better with age because the brain is not like a hard drive. It doesn't have a certain amount of space that can store things. That it simply has to find more efficient ways to store things, that's all. Technically, there's an upper limit to what the brain can quote-unquote store, but it's not like a hard drive, like I said. It's not just like, here's data that takes up X amount of space. It's, here's some information that we can... It's hard to explain. The brain is such a complicated thing. Anyway, tangent. Haven going on a tangent? A psychology-based tangent at that? That's silly, this never happens. I almost felt as though I'd known him for years. It was the same feeling as when I met Yomogi in uni. Is this connected to my lost or maybe mistransplanted memories too? You! I managed to wring a few words out with my dry throat. Who are you? Sorry, I think I mixed up their voices for a minute there. Who are you? Hearing those words, the man shrugged his shoulders in disappointment. Really? This is quite troublesome. Seems you really did forget everything. I am Enomoto Naoya. Oh! Potentially there goes that theory. So... he was driven insane and sent to a mental hospital because of the events of what happened in the other timeline? I mean, he was watching everything. But still, that's weird that we would jump to his perspective. How about now? Still don't remember? As I thought, I know this man. No, I knew him? But even when I heard his name, I couldn't remember a single thing about him. Or maybe it's not that I couldn't, but that I didn't want to. Am I subconsciously blocking out memories of this guy? Since you're making a weird face, I guess you really don't. Well, so be it. Never mind me. It's a trifling matter compared to the importance of what's taking place here and now. What's taking place? Here and now? You don't get it. I'm talking about what's happening to you right now. What? Don't tell me the personality exchange. Perhaps the person trying to kill me? Anyway, this is quite a pain. We certainly have found ourselves in a troublesome state of affairs. I should never let you go up that clock tower. What do you say? What if the shadow that appeared behind the clock tower had been this man? The one who pushed me off and tried again and again to kill me. Huh? What's wrong? Was it you? The one who pushed me off the clock tower? And tried to murder me? Was it you? And Enomoto suddenly flashed at me a chilly smile and put his sunglasses at the bridge of his nose. Should I take that as a yes or a no? Why won't you answer me? Was it you or not? Answer me! I have no need to answer that. It's a meaningless question. And yet another trifling matter. Trifling matter? My life is on the line and you're saying it's meaningless? Or has it all been your doing from the start? Enomoto and I glared at each other for a while. Well, I was glaring at Enomoto, that's for sure. But unfazed by my attitude, Enomoto was just watching me coolly. You want to know? Eh? Do you really want to know who's trying to kill you? Obviously I do! I can't die just yet. And first of all, why should I die for God knows what reason? I'll catch the killer and then I'll make them tell me everything. Looking away from me, Enomoto muttered. I don't think that would do you any good, though. Even if you did find out as you are now, it would only serve to confuse you. What do you mean? Oh well. If you want to know that badly, I'll show you later. Show? I just finished organizing all the data from before when you got here. Enomoto ignored my question and continued. I can show you the scene you wish to see, just as you wish to see it. What's he going on about? What the hell does that mean? As I said before, even if I showed you, to as you are now, it would be meaningless. Besides, in the end it would barely scratch the surface. What's truly important, what's happening within you can't even imagine. Happening within me? Is he talking about the personality exchange phenomenon? Do you get it? What's truly important is not what your eyes can see. The truth can't be seen with a pair of eyes alone. The truth. Enomoto raised his index finger and gently touched it to his forehead. This is where you truly see the truth. I don't know why, but Enomoto's words momentarily overwhelmed me. I have no idea what he's talking about. But his words cut right to the heart. As though he'd cast a spell over me. No, that's not it. Maybe I knew it from the beginning. That there was meaning behind Enomoto's words. Now then, this should be satisfactory. What you need to know right now, the things that you must know, don't simply concern your physical safety. I'll explain the more important parts to you. You do know what I'm talking about, don't you? The personality exchange? Correct. As I thought, you're no fool. Enomoto curved his lips into an over-wide grin. Well, where shall I begin? With those words, Enomoto walked over to the chair in front of the console. Rather, I wonder, how far back do you remember? Enomoto sat down, leaned against the back of the chair and asked that of me. Let's start from there. What do I know? Yes, please do tell me. Enomoto laid an elbow on the armrest and propped his chin on his hand, urging me to begin. Trinity. I closed my eyes and thought over everything I come to understand thus far. After that, I softly resumed speaking. About my proposition are personality exchange, my goals of both Aosaga Island, Mount Kakura, Utsumi and Hattori. In regards to R1, Enomoto took great interest in it, and I even managed to come across new realizations from time to time as I listened to him speak. However, he had no interest in R2 and R3, and it seemed like he was ignoring me outright when I brought them up. Once I finished, Enomoto leaned back in his chair. Bravo! And congratulated me with a smattering of light applause. Let's applaud too, guys! It's a round of applause, even. Very good job. No, that was truly splendid. You did well in deriving that much from such limited information. Magnificent. A transfer between Aosaga Island and Mount Akakura. The transfers from Aosaga Island to Mount Akakura do not occur at predetermined intervals, but completely at random. However, when it comes to the transfers from Akakura to Aosaga Island, the phenomenon maintains for a duration of 33 minutes before changing back. These transfers do not occur at the exact point in time, but rather when a period of 1 year is between them. In other words, they happen between the periods of 2011 and 2012. Which would mean that the time jump and the personality exchange happened together, right? Sorry, that was Satoru. Which means the time jump and personality exchange happened together, right? Enomoto used his finger to push the bridge of his sunglasses to the nose and slowly nodded. Precisely. On the outside, that is. That meant that my reasoning wasn't just mere speculation, and that it wasn't too far from the truth. Even so, there are a number of things that I don't understand. Oh, even so, there are a number of things I don't understand. No, you could say there's a whole lot of things I don't understand. Well, that's a matter of course. To start with, what's causing this phenomenon? Getting right to the chase, huh? Fine, I suppose. Enomoto stood up from his chair and walked toward the supercomputer. It's because of this device. Seeing that, Enomoto placed a hand on it. Because of the process of this device, the phenomenon is likely to occur. Explanation over. Sorry, but I have no idea what you mean. What is this device? How does it work? In the first place, you must have a lot of blackouts with such a large-scale device, right? What do you even do then? Does that put a stop to the phenomenon? What if it was in mid-operation? For example, the device stopped while the personnel exchange was still occurring. It'd be very bad, wouldn't it? Slow down for a moment. Would you not ask so many questions at one time? Let's go in order, alright? First, about the latter issue, there's no need for your concern. Sphere is equipped with its own generator. A personal power supply, in other words. Enomoto inclined his jaw toward the iron door to his left. With this much space, it might actually be possible. Moreover, worst comes to worst, we'll switch to a backup power supply. Backup power supply is sufficient to provide several hundred hours worth of electricity. Probability of an accident occurring is several zeros and 1%. Next, about the former of your main concerns. Can the details wait until later? If I don't explain it in order, it'll be more difficult for me. Understood. Still have other questions. About the moon. Phase of the moon was the same as the one in Mount Kakura 2011 and Sphia 2012. More specifically, they were both in the correct phase for the year 2012. About the ocean. Mount Kakura, after climbing out of the bowl-shaped hollow, I saw an ocean there. Moreover, at Aosage Island, when I opened the front gate of Sphia, there was an ocean waiting there for me as well. What does it mean? Before I answer that, there's something I must say. You seem to be misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? It's not a personality exchange that you two are undergoing. Your personalities aren't what's being transferred. What's really being transferred is space. Huh? Space itself is being transferred. To be specific, it's space that leaps through time and is transferred. In other words, it's a space-time transfer. Space-time transfer? Yes. Having said that, Enomoto once again took a seat and began typing something out on the keyboard. As he did, images that began to appear on a nearby monitor. In other words, the reasoning you've been able to derive goes something like this, doesn't it? Fuyukawa Kokoro, who exists in Mount Akakura of 2011, and you, Yukito Satoru, who exists on Aosage Island in the year 2012. Both of your consciousness are released from their respective bodies, jump through space, and enter each other's. Just like this. And so you possess the body of Fuyukawa Kokoro in the year 2011, and likewise Fuyukawa Kokoro possesses yours. A personality exchange. That is how you thought of it, right? Or am I wrong? That's right. However, there are things that this doesn't quite explain. You're referring to the moon and the ocean, correct? Yeah. Of course, there are contradictions. Enomoto snickered. I'll say it once more, but you've been misunderstanding. This line of thinking is incorrect. A space-time transfer, as you said. Just what does it mean? This. Enomoto tapped the keyboard again. The monitor began to display a different image. The year 2011, Manakakura Fuyukawa Kokoro. The year 2012, Aosage Island, Yukito Satoru. The initial conditions are the same as before, but here's where it differs. In the phenomenon that you're currently experiencing, it's not your personality that transfers. You said it was space itself transferring before, didn't you? Yes. Space with the radius of 110 meters from the Mount Akakura emergency shelter cabin in the center. And Aosage Island Sphia at the center of the space with the same radius of 110 meters. Everything within the 110 meter space within the sphere is transferred. This would explain why Satoru was trying to lead us out of the cabin before, and we showed up in when we did it. Because he probably can't tell them all this, because this is way too confusing. And he only has 33 minutes to do it. So next time he gets transferred into her body, he's just going to convince everybody to go as fast as they can. And they probably don't make it far enough by the time the time delay ends, and then Kokoro switches back, and all the space gets transferred back. Every last thing within two spheres changes places between the same 2 points, between the years 2011 and 2012. Just like this. This is the phenomenon called the space-time transfer. Like this, you have a 110-meter spherical enclosure around the shelter cabin, or you could just call it a circle instead. And so, outside the shelter cabin circle lies the ocean of Aosage Island. Wait a second! What about me and Kokoro? Why are my body and Kokoro switching places? And what about the moon? The moon I saw on the 13th is the same as the one in the year 2012, no matter how I look at it. You two are the exception. An exception? Your consciousness doesn't transfer. They remain in the original space. Remain? Watch. Enomoto pointed at the monitor. The image had changed without me noticing. On the verge of transfer, yours and Fuyukawa Kokoro's consciousness alone separate from their bodies and remain in place. Your consciousness at Aosage Island in the year 2012, and Fuyukawa Kokoro's at Mount Kakura in the year 2011. And while your consciousness separate from those bodies and remain, everything else is completely transferred. After having lost the containers you call bodies, you and Fuyukawa Kokoro entered these backup containers of the others' bodies and possessed them. Which looks a bit like this. You in Fuyukawa Kokoro's body, and Fuyukawa Kokoro in your body. Well, as sharp as you are, you understand by now, don't you? This is the truth of the transference phenomenon you're undergoing. That's why I always saw the year 2012's moon. Precisely, Enomoto said, nodding as he did. I think you guys were right. Maybe the weather was inconsistent between them, because they never leave their time frame. God, this is complicated. It explains quite a bit, though. I mean, I don't doubt this guy. I think he's telling the truth. But I'm trying to think of how it applies to all my other theories. Mostly, I was right about certain elements. I wasn't sure about the weather being inconsistent, though, Alu. I know there were times in the shelter cabin where it wasn't snowing. But wouldn't everyone else have noticed? And commented how the weather kept changing? Why is it only our consciousness that remain? I don't understand, I said barely above a whisper. Who knows? I wonder what it means. I hadn't expected Enomoto's response. They do, though? They did mention the weather? Did I not catch that? Dang, this blizzard picked up fast. Oh, they did mention it. I wrote it off just because the weather didn't seem terribly important, but you might be right. Shit. The inside of my head was in total chaos. As soon as one question was solved, another rose to take its place, and another without continuing on without end. Solving one puzzle only brought forth another. There was no end. These mysteries were inexhaustible. On and on. On and on. Wait! That means at Kokoro's ending, somehow, Satoru's gonna make it so the transfer occurs without their personalities splitting. Huh. Around and around it went in the cycle. Quantum teleportation. I don't believe it. Something like this, it couldn't possibly. However, it's actually happening, is it not? You should know better than anyone else whether it's real or not. No matter how much you think about it, no truth will appear. Don't let yourself be trapped by so-called common sense. Take in what you feel, no matter how absurd it is. Enomoto stared at me over his sunglasses. I couldn't look away. There's no way he was lying. That understanding came not from my head, but from a deeper instinct. But why is such a ridiculous phenomenon occurring in the first place? Oh dear. There should have been no need for me to explain this in the first place, but there's no helping it. It'll be long, so I'll try to summarize where I can. Enomoto repositioned his sunglasses. Have you ever heard of quantum teleportation? I have, but let's go with I haven't anyway. I see, so I'll have to start from there. Quantum teleportation is a technique based on the properties of quantum mechanics. We've got terms to define. Quantum, the smallest unit of physical quantity, which can be expressed using values limited to a set of integers within a certain range rather than continuous values. In 1900, Max Planck proposed the idea of quantum energy. The quantum hypothesis spawned the beginning of quantum theory. Subsequently, Albert Einstein suggested the existence of light quantum, photon, and Niels Bohr demonstrated the angular momentum quantum. Quantum mechanics, the study... Oh, goody! Blue text within blue text. The study of molecules, atoms, subatomic particles, in short, the dynamics of matter and energy on a microscopic level. Introduced the principles of the Schrödinger equation, conducted probabilistic explanations between values that can be obtained from observation, postulated that wave-particle duality of matter, and explained the uncertainty relationship of measurements. Quantum mechanics serves as the theoretical foundation of modern physics, which concerns particles as well as particle bodies. Additionally, it paved the way for development of physical atomic theory, elementary particle theory, and the field theory. The Schrödinger equation, aka the wave equation. In quantum mechanics, the Schrödinger equation is the differential equation that describes the changes over time of quantum state of a system. It can be shown formally that evolution of the wave function is given in the equation by the Hamiltonian operator, which corresponds to the total energy of the system. I have no idea what any of this means, so we're moving on. Actually, I know some of it means, most of it no. Teleportation, the ability to almost instantaneously transport an object to a different location. No, transport an object is not quite correct. And to be more accurate, it's the object that is transferred, but the information that composes it. There is no need to move the object itself. What you want to transfer is the sum total of the object's present physical state, but not the state itself. Transmitting the quantum information of a system, then reconstructing a different location. You may not believe this, but it is a realistic possibility. It can be done. I can even prove it to you. The theoretical basis of quantum teleportation lies in the concept known as the EPR pair. EPR, an abbreviation composed of the first letters of the names of three physicists, Einstein, Podolsky, Rosen. These three presented the EPR paper to argue against the concept of the uncertainty principle of quantum mechanics. This opposition was especially pronounced in the case of Einstein, summed up by the famous remark, "God does not play dice." Although fully recognizing its usefulness, he was known to be uncomfortable with it and to oppose quantum mechanics until his death because of its inability to definitely describe the microscopic aspects of physical reality. Einstein conducted many thought experiments that criticized quantum mechanics and troubled his opponents Niels Bohr, one of the founders of quantum mechanics. Uncertainty principle. Quantum mechanics, the uncertainty principle states that, regarding a particle's position of momentum, energy, and time, and other pairs of physical properties, one cannot accurately measure and determine both pairs simultaneously. The uncertainty relationship, which states that the product of the uncertainty of two values cannot be smaller than the fixed proportion of Planck's constant, holds true. It's derived by Werner Heisenberg in 1927, who then went on to make a lot of math. Oh wait, wrong thing, sorry. EPR paper. Paper published by Albert Einstein, Boris Podolsky, and Nathan Rosen, also known as the EPR paradox. It presents a thought experiment that is extremely critical of quantum mechanics and was originally published by Einstein and his co-authors as an attack on it. Ironically, it ended up having the opposite effect, becoming the best material for deepening one's understanding of the field. The details of the experiment are as follows. According to quantum theory, when two particles are created at the same location by the same event, they share a certain kind of state. For example, stationary, whatever that means, pi, I guess, meson, decays into two photons traveling in opposite directions, but both members of the photon pair are represented with a single Schrödinger equation. Quantum theory states that as long as they aren't observed, the particles can be expressed by the same equation forever. So even if one of them flies a long distance away, if you observe some information about it, such as spin or polarization, you should know the state of the particle that remained behind. But the moment you observe one particle, the wave function of the other particle collapses accordingly, appearing as if the measured information has been instantly transmitted from one to the other. The EPR paper argues this is a violation of causality. However, modern quantum mechanics has successfully come up with a proper explanation, and experimental results support it, even published one after another. Yeah, they do kind of lose me a bit too. I'm trying to keep up with some of the jargon and information. I mean, this is all actual information and stuff, but I think they're getting a little too specific with some of that extra information. EPR pairs are born from simultaneous generation of particle pairs. Oops, no. Particle pair generation. As an example of established method, the following procedure exists when the UV lasers interacts with a crystal of a nonlinear optical material such as boron borate. Each single photon splits into the two other photons with long wavelengths. The split photons travel in the concurrence of two cones. In fact, it's symmetric about the initial beam. The point at which contours two codes intersect points on the state of entanglement. There's no distinction of their origins. You know what? We're skipping this. Because fuck. I'll see this on my own at some point.
These twin particles share a curious fate. Put simply, no matter how far apart the twin particles are spatially, any influence on the state of one particle is instantaneously transmitted to another. And even if, for example, the distance between the pairs is tens of thousands of light years. So, in other words, a transmission of information which exceeds the speed of light? Yes. What is meant is that, for all intents and purposes, these two particles cannot be treated as two separate units, but as one. Now, with that general concept in place, I'll continue.
Edamota pushed his sunglasses up again and turned back the keyboard.
Teleportation.
In other words, the transfer of something from one location to another. Thus, both a sender and a receiver are necessary.
For the sake of convenience, let's call the sender Alice and the receiver Bob.
Okay. Now I'm actually curious. Alice and Bob. Cryptography, the one conveying the information commonly referred to Alice, while the recipient is often referred to Bob. The naming convention was first used in a 1978 article presenting the RSA crypto system. Additionally, a person found to be intercepting communication through bug or wiretap between Alice and Bob is customarily referred to as Eve. Huh. I'm going to save because I have a feeling we are going to be making important decisions soon, and obviously the shortcut system isn't working for some reason. I've seen Max's consciousness skill. Also game so many blue text. Yeah, what the hell?
Now I'll show you the process by which information is transmitted from Alice to Bob via quantum teleportation.
Operating the keyboard, Edamota pulled up an image on the monitor.
Firstly, the EPR pair. Let's give a pair of entwined particles, particle B and particle C, to Alice and Bob respectively. Now let's introduce particle A. Say Alice wants to send the particle A, which is the state
Pokey Trident,
to Bob. Generally, Alice doesn't know what is the actual state of Pokey Trident, because if she did, its wave function would collapse. Now Alice must collocate particle A with B. Next, the Bell measurement. Alice performs a special measurement called a Bell measurement on particles A and B. To put it simply, the process is about as measuring the parameters describing the sum of their respective states. So Alice determines their Bell state. That is to say, one of the four different quantum states of now entwined particle pair AB. But she still has no idea the state of Pokey Trident particle A. Furthermore, three states theoretically share the same probability of being obtained, namely 1/4 of each state. This has completely lost me.
We may have found someone verbose enough to match Satoru, and they're in conversation together. I'm particularly verbose, and this is wholly losing me. It's Pokey Trident. I don't know. I don't know Greek letters. It's Pokey Trident.
That is, it could be any of the four. Next, particle A is teleported. The moment Alice makes a measurement, the distinction between particles A and B is lost. They become one, and the original EPR pair entanglement is broken. At the same time, the half of the EPR pair Bob has partially collapses, and the state of Pokey Trident migrates to particle C. However, until Bob learns the results of the Bell measurement, he won't be able to recreate the state of the sent particle. So the next step is communicate the results of the Bell measurement. Alice sends Bob the results of the measurement she obtained. This means the communication this time can be more orthodox, say a phone call or a letter, a transmission occurring below the speed of light. And then the final step is the transformation of the quantum state. Using the results of the Bell measurement Bob was informed of, he applies in a unitary transformation to particle C in his possession, namely an operation which does no harm to the information of the wave function. The result is that the state Pokey Trident Alice wanted to send Bob was successfully reproduced on Bob's side. Thus, the vital information finally reaches its destination. And that is how the protocol of quantum teleportation works. Here I showed you an experiment using only a single EPR pair, but of course multiple pairs are possible as well. You can arbitrarily add Alice 2, Alice 3, and so on and so forth up to Alice N. That's about as simple as an explanation as I can give.
Really? Because I got nothing. That's as simple as you can make it? I'm pretty sure you could make it more simple than that. I don't know if it mattered to follow the conversation. The fact English is not my native language is not helping keep up with all text. Shamir, I promise, English is my main language, and they're still losing me. This is... my head is full of fuck. Alright, let's move on.
Originally, quantum teleportation couldn't transfer things like humans. Many thought it could only be used to transfer photons or atoms and other atomic particles. However, the technology developed by the business enterprise I belong to made it possible.
That sounds important! Business Enterprise, a joint Japanese-German pharmaceutical company. Its head office is in Frankfurt, and the majority of staff are German. An internationally renowned drug manufacturer, its capital is generated worldwide. It has very strong ties to the government of several countries. The company's area of expertise isn't limited to the pharmaceutical sector, but includes a wide range of business endeavors such as management, recreational facilities, and so on. An example of this would be the ocean theme park called Lemu, which the company manages. Strictly speaking, they provide funding to Lemu Ltd, the park management organization. Additionally, regarding their microorganism research, it is said that the company owns one of the top research facilities in the field. However, the business enterprise has a hidden agenda. They are in fact developing biological weapons for military purposes. It seems that the company is amassing huge amounts of capital from several countries for the purpose of developing highly lethal viruses and their respective cures. It might seem as though the microorganism research is extended to the company's hidden dark side, but in fact, this is suggested by the as suggested, its face the company, specializing in the field of pharmaceuticals. Much of its medical research is conducted through inhumane practices. Among their activities are using human test subjects without any regard for basic civil rights, research, development, synthesis, and refinement of illegal drugs, expanding profit by trafficking drugs on the black market. Furthermore, according to certain sources, the company was recently ventured in the area of long-range missile development as a result of ties with certain heavy chemical enterprise. In fact, their deep involvement with information engineering and quantum physics-related research projects would happen to be explained as an investment, would perhaps best be explained by investment in sole purpose of subsequent adoption of technologies developed therefore into military use. In short, it would take ages to even try and enumerate all of their wrongdoings. A pharmaceutical company with a reputation this bad, and yet, this is merely a glimpse of the darkness the world possesses. They're bad guys. Do they also fund Cradle Pharmaceuticals and Crash Keys? I'll bet they fund Umbrella. Or... Nah, I'm not going to spoil something in Resident Evil 5. Go watch my Let's Play and you can see. Anyway. While we transfer the state of the atoms disassembled, the quantum information of human bodies. What about Myrmidons? Shmear, quiet. Spoilers. By the way, the original quantum information is lost after the transfer. In the case of inanimate objects, the transfer would create a copy of the object, but when humans are transferred, the original human disappears inside the circle of transmission. They die, and then reconstruct themselves at the reception point. In other words, they are resurrected. However, you two are an exception. Your consciousness remains at the origin of transfer. At first glance, it may seem as if your soul has left the body. This is the true nature of the phenomenon I mentioned earlier, wherein you lose containers you call bodies. Getting back to this point, if this quantum teleportation construction is established at two different points, mutual transfer between them becomes possible. Mount Okakura and Aosaki Island both. Your quantum information is transferred between them. Have you found my explanation understandable? Mostly no, but I got the gist. Once he finished talking, Enomoto exhaled and brought the coffee cup to his lips. How unpleasant. It's gone completely cold. Yeah, you took 45 minutes to explain something. I see. I understand space-time transfer is actually quantum teleportation. Though I don't know what quantum teleportation and transferring through space and time have to do with each other. Especially time. Transferring through space at tide. How is it possible to travel through time? There's no spoilers. I thought you might ask. Very well. Then I'll continue my explanation. More explanation! Oh no! First, the device for enabling space-time transfer exists. It's the same as what I stated before. To be fair, we did ask him the questions he'd to answer. Yeah, exactly. The space-time transfer phenomenon device. That's what I call it. This device acts as a source that brings forth the EPR pair's particles, measuring those particles and then transfer them to a reception point. It's the heart of the space-time transfer, so to speak. A technical explanation would be fine. What I want to hear isn't some... I know. Don't get so worked up. Enomoto held up a hand to command silence before continuing. The device possesses one additional ability, and that is the ability to bend time. Bend time? Correct. It's restricted to a predefined space, however. I don't know what you mean. Especially how you're saying bending time and jumping through time and space are related. Well, I'll skip the theoretical bits, but in short, it's this. Enomoto tapped something on the keyboard.
The figure represents time and space's two-dimensional diagram. The y-axis represents time, x-axis represents space, specifically the latitude of each location. And then... think of the red mark as Mount Nakakura of 2011 and the blue mark as Aosagi Island of 2011. Both exist the same time axis, but in different locations. If we move both spaces in the plus region and y-axis, it becomes like this. This time, both 2 points exist changes from 2011 to 2012. This is the normal passage of time we experience. You understand this much, correct? No problems yet. As you can see, Mount Nakakura and Aosagi Island exist on the same time axis, and nothing stands in the way of transfer between them. That's right. However, at this moment they're more like this. Mount Kokoro, of which Mount Fuyukawa Kokoro exists in, is the year 2011. Aosagi Island, where currently stand, is the year 2012. Only space, but the time axis differs as well. Like this, transfer isn't possible. Twin particles are unable to jump between the 2 points, and the result of the measurement can be transferred between the sending and receiving ends. In other words, the conversion of quantum information can't occur. That's exactly it. Oh, that was Sadaru, my bad. Then, what do? No. And you'll keep calling him Mr. Corpse. Well, he's gonna be Mr. Corpse soon, we know that. How does it happen? The 2 coordinate points are connected by a single straight line, a link between them. For the time being, let's call this line T'. Well, that won't help anything, will it? You still don't understand. Told you before, didn't I? This device can bend time. That's impossible. A smile floated to Emoto's face. Muttering that's right, and Emoto began typing on his keyboard, and the image of the screen changed. Shown where the image of the y-axis time slanted, and the line marked T apostrophe perpendicular to it. According to this theory, now you can see how it's a matter of fact, the 2 points can exist at the same time axis. This solves a problem we had before with one fell swoop. Condition transfer of quantum information have been met. Like this, the Mount Nakakura circle in the year 2011 and the Aosagi Island circle in 2012 can transfer back and forth over and over again. Okay. The rambling of a fool. A really honestly, seriously, maddeningly, accursedly unrealistic bunch of crap. I love you, Sataru. And we're going to leave it at that for our first break of the day. So, get up, stretch, whatever you need to do to process all that information. And I'll be right back.